Hello.
Been organizing science workshop for monks and nuns since 1999, now over 25 years. So then one time I organized a special workshop. The earlier workshops were for any monk, any nun who wants to come. But then I thought that we should teach science to those monks and nuns who already finished their study, like Khembos, Geshes, Lamas, because these people have already finished their Buddhist study, so if they gain some teaching. So I studied. So it was held in Sara. So on the opening day, I went there. Organizing these things like that. So the monks were all like graduates, from different monasteries, Khembos, Lamas, abbots, things like that. So in the beginning, they were like not very respectful to me. No, I'm not expecting respect, but you can see the gesture, because I learned this from the previous workshop. They were all like, like this, which you are doing right now. But this group, they're all like, yes, I'm somebody to be counted. Huh? I'm Geshe, I'm Kembo, So they were not that external gesture you can figure out. So then they went out with their workshop with the scientists and teachers and things like that, did discussion, everything. I don't go there, attend all the workshops. So when at the conclusion of the workshop, we give a farewell party, a dinner party in Zambala house in Meghalorganj. So when people were like having their dinner, one very senior monk, Geshe, came to me with big humility. He said, Geshe, thank you so much. I said, what happened? He said, the science workshop was very useful. I asked, in what sense? He said, in the monasteries, there are many things we can show, but they never show. They only talk. For example, when they explain a fruit like an apple, they'll say apple is a fruit. It has this kind of color. Have you open it inside the seed, things like that. They never showed apple. Now in the science workshop, they were showing it. And that's the end of the story. So the point that I'm making is with those things which are obvious, why you have to conjecture? Just give it. That is the scientific way, and which is so useful for teaching. You should eat it. It doesn't take time to understand apple then. Similarly, colors and other things. So there are many things on this obvious level where we should not conjecture, wasting our time, but just try to get hold of that. If somebody speaks about particular flower or particular fruit, if you have no idea, then I'm really dying to see this flower. Can you manage to bring this flower, this fruit? They will bring it. That's the end of story, see? So on this obvious level, you should, in your daily life, really remain observant. ये क्या है? इसका नाम क्या है? What is the name of this fruit? What is the name of this flower? What is the benefit of this flower, this fruit? How should you eat it? How should you peel it, Even with the peeling, it takes such a hard time because we don't know how to peel it, Cut it here, then peel it. If you know the technique, you can easily peel it. For example, garlic. How do we peel it? Normally we cut a little bit from this end, cut a little bit from this end, then peel it, right? But people who know what they do. Huh? Crush also one thing, but there's even more. Crush, you already mix everything, right? But what they do is they put it in a hot water or warm water, a little bit. The pills come out by itself. You don't have to do anything. So similarly, so these are the things you can learn from your mobile. I very often look at those things, so I'm able to learn. Right? So with the obvious phenomena, so there's the obvious phenomena. So the Buddha is saying with the obvious phenomena, you should use your valid senses and find out, see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, feel it. Right? समझ में आ गया? क्या समझा? This time you should say everything, yeah. The second level of phenomena is called slightly hidden phenomena. Now here it is not so straightforward, it's not obvious. You can't easily see it. Slightly hidden. Slightly hidden means normally the example that we put is if you see smoke on the top of a mountain very far from here, then you use this smoke as a reason to infer and conclude there must be people there. There must be fire there, whatever. So you infer it. So you understand those subjects which is slightly hidden, you use what we call as reasoning, inference, inferential cognition. Thereby you can figure out. For example, I have been now coming into this room repeatedly, right? On every session. So next time, even if you don't see my whole body, if you see a little bit of part of my body, you might say, oh, this is Geshe-la. You can infer. So that means in those areas where it is not directly seen, you should use your brain and reason out. Ask questions. Then there is a third level of phenomena which is called completely hidden phenomena. So in this level of completely hidden phenomena, you can't see it directly, you can't reason out, but you need to trust upon somebody's statement. For example, now if I put my hand in my pocket and then ask you, what do you think I have in this pocket? What do you think I have in this pocket? Huh? What? What do you think? Tissue. What do you think? Chocolate. You must have got a chocolate from me. And what else? Anybody? Huh? Who? You said nothing. You think I'm very poor? Anybody else? Huh? What? What? Diary. Oh my goodness. Carrying heavy diary in my small pocket. What else? Huh? Money. Money makes me go. Mobile phone. Somebody said mobile phone, very heavy to put it here. You're correct. I have nothing. Completely empty. Right? So now, even though I said it's completely empty, how do you know it's completely empty? I have not let you come here and see my pocket, things like that. So you have to trust my word. Why should you trust my word? Then indirectly you can reason out. Indirectly we have to trust Geshe-la-Logos's word, but why should we trust him to say that what he said is true? Why should you trust me? Because by saying my empty pocket is empty, well, why should I lie? If I lie, I'm not going to get anything by lying. Like, for example, more important than that is, for example, you know when you are born? All of you know when you are born. So let us say 15 August 1956, something like that. That's not your age, my age. 15 August 1950. I'm telling you a big secret, okay? 15 August, something like that, okay? That 15 August 1956 is what I've written in my book. That made me a little bit younger. Because when Tibetans came, they are not so sure their age, so everybody just put a little bit younger. Right? So when you say something like 15 August 1956, then if you ask how do you know, you can't say I've seen it. You can't say I'm so clever I figured it out by reasoning. You can't do. So you will say my parents told me. How can you trust your parents? I trust my parents because they love me, and they'll not get anything by telling my birthday is wrong. So in this way, indirectly you reason out and then rely on the citation or statement of that person. So there's one way of finding things out. So therefore, when you encounter different levels of phenomena, different levels of experiences, then you should use these three methods to find out the truth of that object. And do not blindly follow anybody, as the Buddha encouraged, not even to follow him blindly. Not even to follow him blindly. But most of us follow things blindly. And what is the disadvantage of following blindly? Right? इधर लिखा है, this morning I wrote this one. जब अंधविश्वास आपकी शिक्षा पर हावी हो जाए तो समझ लीजिए आप मानसिक गुलाम बन चुके हैं. So this means if your education is ruled by blind faith, then you should understand that you have become a mental slave. So in education, there should not be room for blind faith. ठीक है? Then another thing that I mentioned about understanding what is there in front of you, rather than worrying about what is not there in front of you. Because many people ask this question, I'm very worried about my future. So here I have this quotation, Bhavishya ka chinta. Bhavishya ka chinta kyun ho raha hai? Many of us have anxiety and worry about what will happen in the future. So this quotation says, Bhavishya ki chinta, jo samne hai, वह तो दिखता ही नहीं और जो नहीं होता है उसका हम विचार करते रहते हैं. See, that's the problem. So this one is saying, those things that is right in front of you, you don't pay attention. Those things that are not there, you calculate and think what will happen, you get worried. It's useless. Right? That's another one which is very nice. अंतर होना कोई बुरी बात नहीं है. अंतर होना कोई बुरी बात नहीं है, लेकिन पढ़ा लिखा होकर भी अंधविश्वासी, पखंडी और मूर्ख होना बड़ा ही चिंता का विषय है. So that means to remain illiterate is not a problem. To be an illiterate is not a problem. The problem is even after you become literate, still you maintain blind faith, still you maintain hypocrisy, still you remain stupid. That is a big subject to be worried. Right? So therefore, that's one thing. Then second, there is a teaching in Buddhism called Four Reliances. You know the Reliance company? The same spelling. Four Reliances. Four Reliances. When somebody gives a teaching, the Buddha says, when somebody gives a teaching, do not rely on the word, but rely more on the meaning of the word. That's the first reliance. When somebody gives a teaching, rely more on the meaning than on the word. Rely more on the word than on the rely more on the meaning than on the word. When it comes to understanding the meaning, the first one is not this one. First one is when somebody is giving a teaching, rely more on the teaching than on the person. Rely more on the teaching than on the person, meaning that normally people rush when there is a teacher who is very famous. Oh, big Rinpoche, big Lama, somebody, Then without asking any question, you just rush. A famous actor, famous actress, famous Lama, right? You rush. And then with your cloth also, branded shirt, branded pant, you rush to get those things. But actually, the so-called branded and many clothes which are so-called unbranded, they're basically same. The only difference is you have to pay a lot of money for that. Right? So when somebody is giving a teaching, do not just rush because that person is very famous, things like that. But check his teaching, analyze his or her teaching. And that's first reliance. The second reliance is when it comes to understanding the teaching, there's the thing. When it comes to understanding the teaching, rely more on the meaning than on the word. There's the second reliance. The third reliance is when it comes to understanding the meaning, rely more on the definitive teaching than on the interpretative teaching. Because when Buddha gave the teaching, he was giving teaching to so many people with so many different mental dispositions and mental capacities. He cannot just give one teaching to everybody. For example, depending upon the need, mental interest, capacity, he has to give different teaching. So that means he is a very skillful teacher. Right? Therefore, in the Buddhist teaching also says you can't give teaching on emptiness when people are not prepared. That's the general process. Right? For example, there is this story of Ajat Shatru. He killed his father. And then he sank into depression. Really, he sank into big depression. Because after killing his father, after committing this patricide, he sank into depression. Then some of the people around him said, the only person who can help you come out of this depression is Buddha. You must go to Buddha. So in a very apologetic manner, he approaches Buddha and said, I committed this heinous crime. Please help me. The Buddha said, what did you do? I killed my father. My father and mother are to be killed. The Buddha said, what is their big deal? Father and mother are to be killed. Then he was able to come out of his depression. He was able to come back to his senses. When he was back in his senses, then the Buddha said, now listen, I'll explain a little bit more. I'll explain a little bit more. When I said father and mother to be killed, I'm not talking about your physical parents. I'm talking about ignorance and action, which are like father and mother, produces all other negative emotions. And by giving this teaching, he said, if you understand this cycle, how ignorance, like with your ignorance you killed your father, similarly with ignorance you engage in certain negative action, then produces all kind of difficulties, sufferings, birth, aging, sickness, and so forth. If you understand this, then this is the way you can purify the negative deed that you committed. Very skillful. So you have to be very skillful. And on certain occasions, when he is requested to give a teaching, he never gives the teaching, remains silent. And that silence for that person is a kind of teaching. Right? Sometimes without giving any teaching. It depends upon different situation. For example, I had this experience with myself when I was working in His Holiness office. So many people want to see His Holiness, they are unable to see. So they have some questions, things like that, and especially if it's related to Buddhist or spiritual, practice or things like that, then the office dumps me down. Gisela, you go. मुझे बलि का बकरा बना दिया जाता है. Right? They make me the sacrificial lamb. Right? So I have to go. I have many interesting stories. So in this case, the story is when I went down, there was a black woman with a small child, maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, something like that. She was there. Then when I sat near her, she started telling her story, long story. Then after a while, when I started to say something, you know what he said? I don't need any comment or any suggestion or anything from you. I don't want anything from you. Just the fact that you listen to me is the great thing that you've done. Thank you so much. Until now, I did not find people listening to me. Believe me, she is not the person. There are so many people who have like so many problems, difficulties, and nowhere to entrust, nowhere to tell. When almost every year in New Delhi, organized by the Foundation for Universal Responsibility, I give 5 days annual teaching in Delhi. So during this teaching, there is an hour and a half teaching. And then before the teaching, there is a consultation period. So during the consultation period, so many senior educated business people, they come. And they somehow they thought, okay, we can trust this man, So they pour their heart out, you see. And they feel whether I'm able to give any solution or they feel really happy. They feel lighter, you see. Right? So therefore, the point that I'm making is, depending upon various mental dispositions and interest, for some people you need lengthy teaching, for some people short teaching, some people need just a joke, a teaching through joke, teaching through story, and sharing a little bit of bits of wisdom coming from all the great masters of the world. So you need to adopt different techniques, right? So therefore, the third reliance is when it comes to understanding the teaching, when it comes to understand the meaning of the teaching, rely more on the definitive teaching, not on the interpretative teaching. Therefore, the lower tenet systems of Buddhism, they are kind of interpretative teaching. Therefore, we say the teaching in the Prasangika Madhyamika is the final, that's the ultimate teaching. And the others have to be interpreted. Fourth, when it comes to understanding the definitive teaching, rely on the pristine consciousness or wisdom mind rather than the grosser level of consciousness. Then when it comes to understanding the definitive meaning means teaching on emptiness. Emptiness cannot be realized by ordinary mind. It has to be understood and realized by primordial wisdom. Wisdom, in other words, wisdom. Right? So therefore, when you take into, there are so many other like teachings by Buddha, the four laws, and other things where Buddha is really encouraging that you should use your intelligence and brain and figure things out with an unbiased attitude. That should be the approach of the teaching. And as I mentioned earlier, the nature of the teaching itself is such that it is the whole teaching of the Buddha is based on law of nature. Law of nature. Law of nature primarily can be explained in terms of these two truths. One is called conventional truth, the second is called ultimate truth. Conventional truth means all these countless things that you see around. For example, in this very hall, in this very gathering, I see so many colors. There is a pink color, blue color, yellow color, black color. People's faces are different. The manner of sitting is different. How they look is different. There is richness in the conventional world. There is a house, there is a tree, there is a water. You can't count, right? So many varieties. There is the conventional world, conventional truth. So in our ordinary life, the problem with us is we get stuck with the conventional world. This is yellow. Oh, so beautiful. I have to buy it. Oh, this is green. Looks like grass. I like environmental friendly color. You go after it. So we get stuck with the conventional world. Be it the latest mobile phone, or be it the Mercedes car, or it is the delicious food that's available in the lay market, whatever it is. So many varieties are there to cater to your senses. And you get stuck with that. You get stuck with it because you pay more attention to the needs of your senses, not to the need of your mental consciousness, because you are a bunch of pleasure-seeking groups. All of us, including me. I'm included, don't worry. I'm included. I'm there with you. I will be there with you forever. As long as you remain samsara, I will be here. Okay, I'm joking. Right? So we go after the sensual pleasures. As I mentioned earlier, today everybody says I'm very busy. And I also mentioned it's not important to be busy. What is important is what are you busy about? In Buddhism also, it is taught that sometimes it is important to be busy. It's not a new phenomena. For example, in this very famous text by Maitreya, which is called Sutra Alamkara, Ornament of Sutra, there is a line which says, Gola Simjin Kurjin Kurwai Sembachone Taljin Meje. That means those bodhisattvas who carry on their head or shoulder the burden or the responsibility of all sentient beings. It doesn't look good for these bodhisattvas to walk slowly, meaning that they should be busy. So that is where you should be busy. But in our ordinary case, we are busy in many cases. Sometimes we are busy with useless things. Right? So now this problem, you need to understand. Yesterday I mentioned about this difference between pleasure and happiness. I said pleasure is a bonus, but happiness is something that you must have, without which you can't do. Right? Without which you can't do. It is a must. It's your long-term need. You must have it. Now we are not able to go to that long-term. We are not able to seek that long-term happiness because we are always deluded, or we are always controlled by the dictates of the senses. Your eye wants to see something attractive and beautiful. Your ear wants to listen to something melodious. These days, people who are walking on the road have their ears plugged. Many people, because of that, they have accidents. And if you're with some other human being, he is talking and you're not able to hear it. Dharma, you have to say like that, not hearing. Right? And then taste how many varieties of food you want to taste, how many varieties of touch, nice clothes you would like to have. Right? So we are completely engrossed and lost in our pursuit of senses. And that is why we suffer. Unless you put some restraints on the dictates of the senses, you will suffer. I'll tell you this example. It is in the Abhidharma. It's explained that if you get strongly attached to one of these sensual objects, you will get a big problem. Out of the 5, if you get completely engrossed with one of the sensual objects, you will get into big problem. For example, butterfly. It is highly obsessed with butter lamp. When there's a butter lamp burning, then butterfly and other insects, they really see it a nice form, they go there and get themselves killed. Have you seen that? Many flies and butterflies dying. That is a result of getting obsessed with just one sensual object, form, physical form. And then if you are highly obsessed with the sensual object like a sound, it is said that some animals, wild animals like deer, they are very, very attracted to melodious songs, musics. So the hunters, they play some beautiful music. At the same time, nearby they had already laid the trap, and hearing this music, That's why we have these two deers and a wheel on the roof of the temple, right? You've seen these two deers? So that means just as the deers, they're so attracted to the sound and listen with rapt attention, with their ears raised. Similarly, you should listen to the Dharma. That's the meaning, right? So the deers, they come towards where the music is placed, not knowing there is a trap laid for them. So they get caught in the trap and they lose their life. This is the negative result of having obsession with just one sensual object, sound. Then smell. We all have this experience of how this house flies. In hundreds, they get attracted to this smell and go there and have their feet stuck there and die in hundreds. House flies or other flies. You have seen that, right? Then, then test. You must have seen fisherman with his flat hat and with this instrument to catch the fish. And as a bait, they put a small piece of meat, and then fish, they come, try to test it, try to eat it, and the fish is caught, thrown outside the water and killed. This is the result of having attachment to taste. Touch. It is said elephant is very fond of touch. So if you gently massage the body of the elephant enjoys it so much, he will just lie down. When he lies down, the human beings, the wicked human beings, they chain the elephant and he is enslaved forever. So if you get strongly obsessed and attached with just one sensual object, this is the problem. Now look at us, the human beings. We are strongly attached to all the five sensual objects. That is how the moles sprung up. Have you visited all the moles, right? So many moles. What do you see there? The moles normally have 5-6 floors. So let us say the first floor is normally scents, because they know you like scent, you like fragrance. You may not die, but you spend awful lot of money there. This is scent prepared from lily, lotus, jasmine, whatever, right? You spend a lot of money there. First floor. Go to second floor. Clothes for touch. In that section, there are a lot of, I'm also telling you that I visited the malls, okay? So this is first-hand experience. This is not conjecturing, right? So in that section, there are like clothes for children, clothes for separate clothes for women and men, so many things there. So again, you'll find so many people there buying there, spend a lot of money there. Go to the next floor. Televisions, where you're able to see the famous Bollywood movie stars singing and dancing. You're also watching there, because of your attachment to those. Make sure that you have a television set. And then go to the next floor. What is there in the next floor? DVDs, CDs, so all kind of Japanese music, Tibetan music, American music, so many things, right? Then go to the next floor, what? Normally the highest floor normally is restaurant, Japanese food, Chinese food, things like that. So these malls with this kind of commodities in different levels came into being because of your demand. Because you said, I want all this. So they are able to clearly see, I will construct such a building with all these things. And people will just stupidly, foolishly, they'll come and spend all their money. Right? Now when you enter that mall, they've arranged all these commodities in such a nice way. They look really enticing, amazing, you know. As soon as you enter inside, the first thing that you will see is stacks of, stacks of baskets, saying that I know you definitely buy. So without thinking, now because you are in the mall, you are already you are already in coma. Normally also, not even just in the mall, normally also people, scientists, they did experiment, you know, which one really controls in our day-to-day life, feeling or reason? They say feeling, you see. So because without you are unable to question now, you know, okay, take the basket. And there is another gentleman, women went before you and they also took the basket. You also took, you are no less than anybody. You also took the basket. Then you take few steps, then there is, you know, stacks of like food or whatever says, buy one free. Right? You may or may not need it, but because of this temptation, one free, you buy it. So that is the story, how you move around. Gradually, the more you go inside, the more you get into coma. You are now moving around like a zombie, putting. Then finally, at the time of checkout, you present that basket full of commodities and you show your plastic card. This is again unfortunate story. Because with this plastic card, you really know, many people really have no idea how much money is there. So when you present the plastic card, the machine, the merciless machine, it'll just pull out. Right? And then still you're acting like a gentle, you know, rich man, women, whatever. Thank you so much. Then you go check out from that mall and put your things in the car and drive home. And when you reach home, unpack the things. Then you are coming back to senses. Then you start, why the hell I bought this one? I already have this. My bathroom में तो 3-4 रखा हुआ है क्या? Am I telling a wrong story or is this the real thing happening with all of us? Right? So therefore, you know, the difficulty that we are not able to meditate, we are not able to reflect within, we are not able to let the mental consciousness come out is because we are so engrossed and so duped by the dictates of the senses. And it is because of this addiction to sensual pleasures, the world is running, the world is saying, I'm busy, I'm busy. And it's because of this unchecked greed to sensual objects, we are destroying the whole planet. Have you read this book, quite famous book called Psychology of Money? Huh? You read it? It's a very good thing that you can learn from that book. It says, you will not be able to save money because you graduated in certain financial or technological expertise, but because in your daily life, you use your brain and observe positive behavior when you are ethical. So that's why the other day I was saying, if you're really ethical and good, you can save a lot of money. There are stories of some people who just with meager earning become millionaires and billionaires. And there are stories of somebody who are already like millionaires and billionaires, then within a short time they got bankrupt and lost everything. So that's why ethics, good behavior is important. We are not just talking without having a context, right? Therefore, you are the master of yourself. Nobody can be your master, right? Therefore, it is important to really develop these inner qualities, develop these inner resources, and what will really help you in terms of your physical health, in terms of mental health, in terms of your financial stability. If you have these inner resources, you will have much happier, more peaceful life. All right? What's your trouble? いやいや、だからです。Page 50 what? 56. $56, right? 56 says, I should not be disheartened by all the whims of 54. Having in this way examined his mind for disturbing conceptions and for thoughts that strive for meaningless things, the courageous should hold his mind steady through the application of remedial forces. So meaning that in this way, when you have investigated that how you are surrounded by negative emotions and how you are making meaningless effort, you should develop some kind of courage to develop the counter forces. Counter forces means If you're having a lot of anger, the counterforce is patience. If you're having a lot of attachment, the counterforce is meditation on ugliness, things like that, right? Being very resolute and faithful, steady, respectful, polite, with a sense of shame and with a sense of fear and peaceful, I should strive to make others happy. See, in order to make others happy, you need all this. You should be somebody who has really the conviction towards the teaching. Shindungeda. Right? And then strong faith. Then stability and so forth. I should not be disheartened by all the whims of the childish who are in discord with one another. I should know them to arise in their minds due to disturbing conceptions and therefore be kind towards them. So saying that in this ordinary world you will find so many people fighting each other, not in harmony. I mean like small kids fighting for minor issues. So at that time don't get discouraged. Instead you should say this is understandable because all these people have so much afflicted emotions within them. They're a bunch of confused people, so it is understandable. Right, so therefore you should not get upset or angry, but try to be kind and compassionate. For example, when you do Dharma practice, you should have developed good understanding without having any doubt. So that is called being very resolute. Verse 54, I'm again trying to explain. Verse 55, sorry. Being very resolute. That means you should know the teaching properly and develop conviction. If you don't have conviction, then you will follow all kinds of talks and teachings and you personally have nothing, no confirmation. And total faith, because you develop proper conviction and you know what you're doing, so naturally faith will come. And then you should also have stability. Steady means you should have made a promise, steady promise, so that even sometimes you're shortage of food and clothing, sometimes you get sick and so forth, do not lose your steadiness or stability. Right? Then, so therefore your mind should have this delight and joy and respect to do that. Right? And then having respect means because of your liking to this practice, you should, as an indication of your liking to your practice, you should also show respect and veneration to abbots, lamas, and other teachers. Respect physically, verbally, mentally. And then from your own side, you should have sense of shame. Sense of shame means that I am a Ladakhi, I can't do this. I am a Buddhist, I can't do this. You put yourself as the reason not to do anything negative. And then should also have some kind of apprehensiveness or a little bit fear, recalling the lamas and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, that if I don't behave properly, they might get upset, should have that kind of apprehension of fear. And peaceful. Peaceful means, as I just already gave you a lengthy discourse, that peaceful means restraining your five senses. Five senses. Don't run after the dictates of the five senses. Because if you don't do that, then attachment, anger, etc. will come. Right? So there's the meaning. Next, verse 57. 56 I already read. 57. In doing that which by nature is not unwholesome, both for the sake of myself and other sentient beings, I should always hold my mind first, like an apparition with no sense of self. So this means, in terms of what is by nature not unwholesome, in other words, that which is wholesome, but for the sake of myself, this is not a very good translation, but it's saying in the case of those wholesome or what is not unwholesome, in that case I should have full control over myself, meaning that I should listen to the teaching, right? And practice the teaching. And other sentient beings should also have control. That means, in terms of, you when you eat food and so forth, you should think that this is for others. And with that understanding, you should give Dharma teaching to others, you should practice giving, right? And when you do this practice, for example, when you give a Dharma teaching or when you give some material gifts, then you might again become arrogant. There is a likelihood that you're arrogant, you see. See, I'm teaching, see, all these hundreds of people are listening to me. I'm so special, I'm so clever, I'm so intelligent. That kind of arrogance might pop up. So not to let this arrogance pop up, you should think this is all like apparition, illusion. There is nothing that is inherent, independent existence. Why should I get so arrogant? Why should I develop so much attachment? Right? So that's what it's saying. I should always hold my mind first acting like an apparition with no sense of self. And another thing that's really important is to rejoice, thinking that by thinking again and again that after a long time I have won the greatest leisure. Likewise, I should hold my mind as utterly unshakable as the king of mountain. So they're saying that I'm really lucky. I've got this opportunity after a long time. After a long time means in many previous lives you may not have got this opportunity. In this life also you may have not got this opportunity. Even in the case of this retreat, many of you are attending it for the first time. That means you did not get this opportunity earlier because of this and their reasons. You don't get opportunity. So today I got this opportunity, right? I'm lucky. So I will continue to do so. So your determination should be unshakable like a mountain. Right? Next is practicing the morality, a kind of morality which is called morality of collecting virtuous qualities. The reason that we are not able to train in the precepts is because of our attachment to our body, right? So therefore he's now saying, don't develop too much attachment to your body. If mind, you are not made unhappy when this body is dragged and tossed about by vultures greedy for flesh. When you die, that the vultures and other animals will drag you, split into pieces and so forth. At that time, you don't feel unhappy. Then why are you so concerned about it now? Very soon you are going to grave. That's what he's saying. And more important than That is, just by developing obsession and attachment to your body, you're not going to get anything. In fact, you're harming your body. That is different from taking care of your body. You take care of your body, but without attachment. Right? Therefore, what you do is, now you should have control over your mind. Therefore, holding this body as mine, why mind do you guard it so? Since you and it are separate, what use can it be for you? Why are you saying this body is my body? Because you and the body are different. You and the body are different, right? You and the body are different. You and the mind are different, right? If you and the mind are different, if you and the body are different, then where is you? Where is you? Your body is here, I can see you. But I believe your mind is also there, although I can't see. So where is you? Where are you? Are you with your mind or with your body? The clever answer is you are with the mind, because I can't see it. There's no way I can disprove it. Right? So where are you? I'm not asking a peculiar special question. You may or may not have studied. In Buddhism we say everything is designated. So you are also designated. Your body is also designated. Your mind is also designated. Right now, if I ask you, where is your body? You will say, this is my body, right? Then I split the body, take the hand out, take the legs out. Is your body still there? Right? So it's just a designation given to a thing. For example, if I call this microphone elephant, and if I tell you, okay, listen carefully, now I'm speaking through the elephant. Am I wrong or correct? Huh? Am I right or wrong? Wrong. Huh? Who said wrong? Right or wrong? Right. Who said right? Bigger criminal. Right. So right now when I say I'm speaking through the elephant, you are shocked. Now Gishila this morning, he's really out of his mind, insane. Because somebody long before gave the name microphone, there was no reason to disagree. So we need to communicate. He said, yeah, okay, we give it the name microphone. So today everybody says microphone. And if you try to change it by saying this is elephant, nobody will agree to that. But in the initial stage, when the name was given for the first time, instead of calling this microphone, if we have agreed to call it elephant, today if I say I'm speaking through the elephant, it is not shocking, not surprising, just a designation. And similarly, in your case, your name may be Dharma, your name may be Kelsang, right? Just designation. There's not much reason. There's no Dharma existing from its own side. You got your name much later. There was nobody just waiting to give the name as soon as you took birth. Dharma. Aisa to nahi diya tha na naam. Name was designated later, right? Right? So this is all designation. So that means, are we saying that it's just designation, there is nothing? So that is the tricky part. When we say things don't exist independently, things exist dependently. Dependently means dependent on causes, conditions, dependent on names, designations. Does not mean There's no real existence. What does that mean? This is a really difficult part. That's why we say understanding emptiness is difficult. Even in the West, so many thinkers and philosophers have tried to understand the concept of the self. What is self? Most of them came to the conclusion by saying self is a very slippery notion. You will not be able to catch it. When you thought you were able to catch it, it slips, it disappears. But this is not peculiar or unique with the self, it is with everything. When you don't analyze, okay, looks good. When you analyze, where is the beauty that we are talking about? Where is the body that we are talking about? It's just designated on conglomeration of many parts together. Right? So that's why if you really think, plan, try to understand emptiness, it is said you get very scared because you are used to this thinking, I am here, you see, from my own side. I am definitely here. And this way of thinking is very strong, especially when emotions like anger. If I say a boiled up by things to me, the me. And this stupid deluded notion is so strong that people jump in front of a ballistic missile. Especially if you give a name saying he's a very brave person. Then you are so stupid, then you jump in front of a gun and you get killed. Right? Contrarily, if you had clearly understood your fragile nature, fragile body, then you should have used your intelligence rather than presenting yourself as the target of the gun and so forth. Right? You should find ways how to fight with the enemy. So fighting with the enemy is not always like going into the battlefield. So sometimes hiding, sometimes retracing, sometimes moving forward. So many things you have to do. Right? So therefore now the question is, are you there? Are you there? Or do these things that we see here, are they existent? Huh? Are they existent? Somebody said no. Somebody who said no means she did not get breakfast. Right? So the things that we see are definitely existent, right? So therefore, emptiness means not non-existence. Emptiness in a way means existence. So things exist, right? Make it very clear, things exist. You are definitely here. I am definitely here. Right? But things don't exist as we think. That's the point. Things don't exist as we think, and especially to our ordinary, unquestioning mind. The way we see things by our ordinary, unquestioning mind, things don't exist like that. To our ordinary, unquestioning mind, we tend to think things existing from their own side, existing independently. I mean, this will show you actually. This is an area where we are so strongly habituated. And if I say you don't exist independently from your outside, it's already shocking. Because you are used with thinking that I exist from my own side. I am Dharma, you see. I have been there for the last 10, 20 years. How dare you say I'm not existing from my side? Right? Because we're used with these wrong ways of thinking. But if you're right that you exist independently from your own side, then existing independently from your own side, existing independently means you're not dependent on anything. Are you sure you're not dependent on anything? Are you sure you come into this world from your parents? If you came from your parents, that means you're dependent on your parents. If you existed independently, does that mean you did not eat breakfast? Because there's no need for you to eat breakfast. You are independent, right? Then with this questioning, you realize, yes, I'm dependent on my parents. I'm dependent on the air that I breathe, the food that I eat, so on and so forth. So thereby you realize, yes, I'm dependent. Dependent. So there is dependent existence. So therefore, when we say emptiness, emptiness means empty of. Okay, look at this carefully. Things exist, number one. When things exist, there are only two ways of existence. Either they should exist dependently or they should exist independently. So which one you chose? Huh? Dependently. So when things exist dependently, it's clear they have no independent existence. Because dependent existence, independent existence, they are mutually exclusive, completely opposite. There's no third possibility. Right? If I say table and non-table, then either it should be table or it should be something other, non-table. If I say table and chair, they're not mutually exclusive. All things, if it is not table, not chair, it can be pillar. It can be a man. But here in this case, when you say permanent, impermanent, dependent, independent, then they are mutually exclusive. So there cannot be a third possibility. So you have chosen, not only chosen, but you have chosen the right side, which is things exist dependently. Since things exist dependently, therefore there's nothing that has independent existence. So emptiness means empty of. To make this very clear, emptiness means empty of independent existence. That does not mean things do not exist. Emptiness means empty of independent existence, but emptiness does not mean empty of existence. In fact, with this understanding of emptiness, it is helping you to understand existence. Therefore, the line that I recited yesterday from Nagarjuna, who said, if emptiness is possible, everything is possible. If emptiness is not possible, nothing is possible. Right? If emptiness is possible, everything is possible, because if emptiness is possible, then things don't exist independently, things exist dependently. So by depending on each other, by depending on multiplicity of causes and conditions, things are possible. If things contrarily existed independently, then it is the ultimate presentation. Nothing new can be developed. Right? So by understanding this emptiness, now why we are bothering our dear head with this kind of questioning, existing dependently, independently, not existing, things like that. Why are you worrying your dear head? Why are you doing this difficult exercise? You need to do this difficult exercise because ordinarily when we think things exist independently, then we get problem. The problem is when you see something beautiful, something nice, something that you fancy, then not only you are seeing it as beautiful, handsome, but you are seeing it 100% beautiful, 100% amazing. 100%, mesmerizing. Then what happens next? You get obsessed with it. I must have it. I must have it. So to those areas where you like, you get obsession. You develop strong attachment. I must have this, and I can't live without this one. Contrarily to those things which you don't like, it is absolutely negative. My enemy, absolutely negative. There's not an iota of goodness in this person. I cannot have negotiation dialogue with these Chinese leaders. They're outright embodiment of all the evils in the world. Right? The only thing that I can do is eliminate, shoot and kill these people, my enemy. That's most of the countries are doing that, unfortunately. But if you sit down and think carefully, then the so-called enemy, which earlier you thought is outright negative and bad, which is not true. They have also some good qualities. They also have admirers, their husband, their wife. They say, my husband is amazing. My husband, Xi Jinping, is amazing. You know, right? So therefore, far-sighted great beings like His Holiness say, let us have dialogue and negotiation with the Chinese government, which for majority of ordinary people like me is, especially in the beginning, unthinkable. How can you have dialogue with such horrible enemy who just drove us out of our country without any rhyme and reason? What is it that you are going to discuss with them? I only want my country back. I only want my country back. But whatever means I have to adopt. So this is one approach. But then far-sighted, great leaders like His Holiness always says, no. Don't get lost in the past. Think about the future. The whole world is changing. We are talking about globalization. Look at the European Union. One time, French and German, they are like sworn enemies. They were ready to kill each other and slit each other's throat. Now, because of practical needs, European Union came. Now it's so good. You have just one coin, one system of money, and you can freely travel to this country, to that country. You just get one Schengen visa. Right? So therefore, it is important to develop this wider perspective that everything is dependent upon each other. That's why you need to worry your head, bother your head with this concept of emptiness. That's the reason. Right? When we say things are just designated, they don't have inherent independent existence. They're like illusion. Illusion does not mean they are not there. And even if you have an illusory figure, still you can be affected. For example, when you're dreaming, sleeping and dreaming, you hardly have any existence, right? Your body is like a dead body. But then in your dream, you have so many illusions, You get a dream of going for a nice picnic. You get a dream of eating delicious momo, whatever, Though even though you are more or less lifeless, but you are really so happy with this dream, and there comes a small smile on your face. Like that, even dream, which is like illusion, can affect you. So the very important point is when you understand this kind of reality, it will help. When you understand reality, it will help you strengthen your positive qualities. It will help you harm and destroy the negative emotions. Right now we are much into the negative emotion, not into the positive emotion, because we are not able to understand the reality. The more you're able to understand the reality, the more you will be convinced that it makes sense to do good things. The more you understand the reality, you'll be able to understand it doesn't make sense to do anything that's bad. So here I normally give this famous example of my own creation to old men and women. Let us say if there are two very old, men and women, not only old in terms of age, but also in terms of their health. Let us say they are very sick with the wounds all over the body, pusses, and blood's oozing out. Let us imagine something like that lying in front of us. So now, as I said, that these two old men and women, they are the obvious phenomena. You don't have to ask questions, just go and see. You will be able to see. They are right in front of you. So when you see this reality, will that seeing will help you develop positive emotions or negative emotions? Huh? How? For example, yeah. So this is my kind of example that I always tell people. When you see them, there is much, 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 much more likelihood of developing positive emotions. For example, we'll say who these old people are. They are really helpless. Give them water to drink, or take them to the hospital. You will feel concerned, right? So positive emotions come. And there is less likelihood of negative emotions coming. For example, nobody will say, I want to marry this old woman, meaning attachment. Will attachment come? Huh? Will anybody in this in this classroom come forward and say, I want to marry this old woman? I want to marry this old man? Anybody will come and say things like that? Very unlikely. But I'm giving you a very stark example. By that stark example, I'm also pointing towards something else. Attachment comes because you don't know the reality. If you know the reality, there's less likelihood of developing attachment. There's more likelihood of developing positive emotions. So that is, for me, good news. Therefore, it is important to understand emptiness. It is important to understand the law of nature. Therefore, the whole structure of Buddhism is based on the foundation of the Buddha's teaching is true truth that I said, explained. So don't get stuck in the conventional truth, but transcend the conventional truth and understand the ultimate truth, emptiness. But at the same time, you should not say, oh, why don't we go straight to emptiness without fiddling with conventional? That's simply impossible. Because without depending on terms, names, there's no way you can talk about emptiness. Right? So emptiness is the conventional truth is like the means, and ultimate truth is what you get from that means. Hakosum? Huh? Hakosum? Chazon hakosum? That is to seem to worry. Our time is more or less over, right? 5 minutes. Yeah, one question, maybe one or two questions. So that you will not say that we never got the opportunity.
Tashidele Geshe-la. So when I'm watching teachings of His Holiness Dalai Lama to the online, so most of those teachings he is mentioning the quantum physics. So I'm a little bit confused. So is emptiness is interrelated with quantum physics? Can you please explain briefly?
You explain quantum physics to me.
Sorry?
You explain quantum physics to me. Then I'll see whether it has any relation to emptiness.
I'm just confusing because sometimes I feel like emptiness is related with the quantum physics. Actually, I don't know exact meaning of the quantum physics, so I'm just confusing.
But in quantum physics, it's basically talking about how things are related to each other. That is scientific finding. Therefore, His Holiness say that quantum physics also, the idea explained in quantum physics is also very similar to Nagarjuna's teaching, right? Quantum physics, quanta. In physics, if you talk about the subtle particles, the quanta, the smallest particles, then you realize that there was a time when scientists used to say that through our exploration and scientific, method, we will be able to pinpoint to a particle, a subtlest particle, which we can say that this is the fundamental building block of all the particles. This is the subtlest one. It cannot be reduced and divided further. They used to think like that. Now with more advanced modern ways of thinking and so forth, they are still finding parts to their very subtle particle. So now through the double split experiment, they have experimented with this. And they say when they thought this is particle, it changes into wave. When they thought this is wave, it changes into particle. So therefore they have this notion called wave-particle duality. So basically, just as is explained in interdependent origination that everything is parts, it's dependent, so through this experiment saying that even classical physics, where they really thought fundamental building block, indivisible.
We call it partless particle.
Partless particle, yeah. And in fact, the very word atom means something that you can't cut further. But now they are saying, yes, you can find smaller things. Okay?
Thank you, Vishnu.
Done?
Done, Vishnu.
You're so nice.